Hello, everybody. Welcome to Shadow at Night. This is Wednesday, May the 28th, 2025. On the show tonight, the BC Conservatives are in a world of trouble, man. Some former BC Conservatives, now independent MLAs, dropped a huge dime on something John Rustad and his staff allegedly did at the annual general meeting in Nanaimo. It was this past March. And apparently, Rustad was paying people to vote in this AGM so he could retain control of the party. Now, we've got some video to play for you from a couple of MLAs in BC that was released earlier this morning in just a couple of minutes. And if this is all true, and I believe it to be, then the conservative movement in British Columbia is dead. So congratulations, you guys. Congratulations on getting caught doing this, doing anything like this at all, and giving the Marxists free rein to go ahead and do whatever the hell they want to do in British Columbia for another however many years. Congratulations, John. Well done. Well done. And Donald Trump made an offer to Mark Carney regarding this Golden Dome proposal that he's got, which is pretty much a missile defense system that Canada wants in on. We want in on the Golden Dome, baby. We want to be protected. And why not? We're right next door. And I'm sure Trump wants to protect us as well, but he's going to charge us for it. $61 billion or $1 million for one night with your wife. Or you become the 51st state and it's free. So we're going to get into all of that in just a couple of minutes. The Shadow at Night live stream, as always, my friends, is brought to you by CanadaNanoSilver.com.
Silver is amazing. It has several natural health benefits, and it's been used for hundreds of years for health and healing. That's the main reason they made silverware from silver. But seriously, this nano silver from Silverceuticals is the best and safest silver you can find. There are hundreds of studies and reports on it. I've read some of the studies myself, and it's mind-blowing. One of the things that sets Silverceuticals apart is that it washes out of your body in 24 hours. No silver buildup and no turning blue. And it won't even harm the good bacteria your body needs. It's so effective they can use very small concentrations of silver, like 10 and 32 parts per million, and still outperform other silvers that have up to 3,000 parts per million. It's safer and more effective at the same time. It is an incredibly small particle that is small enough to work through your body, but big enough not to fall out of suspension. They infuse it into almost all of their products. It works in facial serums, toothpaste, gels, and even gummies that work to help your immune system.
CanadaNanoSilver.com. That's the website to get a hold of Kevin and Anna via telephone. Here it is, 204-808-9292. And there is a brand new product on the virtual shelves of Canada Nano Silver, and it is this, the Eczema Therapy and Skin Relief Care. Colloidal oatmeal? Yeah. That's right. This stuff will protect you from sunburns. Let's see, what else here? Rashes, poison ivy, oak, sumac, insect bites. Well, actually not protect you. You're going to get burned anyway, right? But it will help soothe and heal your harmed skin a little bit later on. Rashes, soothing for chickenpox, prickly heat, hives, sunburn. There you go. Eczema Therapy and Skin Relief Cream is a proven moisturizing formula, provides quick, soothing relief and calms dry, itchy, eczema-prone skin. It's non-greasy. It absorbs quickly. Used daily for best results. There it is, the brand new product from CanadaNanoSilver.com, Eczema Therapy and Skin Relief Care. Go to the website and pick yours up today. Okay, who's watching tonight? Kev, there you are. How you doing, buddy? We placed another order for the eczema relief cream today. People want it, baby, he says. CanadaNanoSilver.com. Greg is watching tonight. Evelyn, hello from the stash. Julie is watching in Hillside Beach, Manitoba. That's a lovely little community. Jeannie is watching in Stonewall. So is that. Christina, how you doing? When is Mario coming on the show? You mean Mario for the North? I haven't reached out to Mario yet. I should probably kick my own ass for not having done that. I'll get him on. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll make sure. Kathy is watching tonight from New Brunswick. Paul, where are you watching from? Tyndall, Manitoba. Hello, James. How you doing, buddy? Watching in, I think, are you in BC? Vern is watching tonight in Kelvington, Saskatchewan. Kathy, hello. How are you doing? Watching on Facebook tonight in Ontario. Over on Rumble, we've got Patricia, we've got Esky Dogs, we've got Uniaki, You Go Girl, Crivier, Delby44, Grease Goon is watching tonight. I don't see Lone Arnie. Where's Lone Arnie? Grease Goon, by the way, is watching from Chester, Nova Scotia. Is Lone Arnie not in the house tonight? Did he finally get some company? Where is Lone Arnie? Well, hopefully Lone Arnie appears later on. Whatever platform you happen to be watching on tonight, guys, don't forget, like, share. It helps the show grow. Get this out there to as many people as you possibly can. I'm seeing a lot more people these days watching on YouTube. I'm seeing a lot more people watching on Rumble. I'm seeing a lot more people watching on X. Oh, man, X is exploding over there. Facebook, But those are the big four platforms. And then, of course, there's the website, shadowdavis.com, where tonight on the extension, we're going to be delving into some satanic stuff. Yeah, it's pretty gruesome, but you got to know about this stuff if you want to be able to fix the problem, right? It's the whole thing. The world lives in denial, la, 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 like a little kid, a little 6-year-old holding his or her hands over their eyes and ears. I see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. You just let it go. Well, we need to know about this so we can fix the problem. That's what this show is all about, getting the truth out there to as many people as we possibly can. And that's why, my friends, I ask you to like and share every single night. Okay, this is BC MLA Tara Armstrong. She represents the riding of Kelowna, Lake Country, Coldstream. She was a member of the BC Conservative Party, but then left or was ousted just a little while back. And now she sits as an independent. She was leading the press conference of independent MLAs today. And here's what they had to say.
To report credible evidence indicating that John Rustad and his senior staff may have committed election fraud during the Conservative Party of BC's AGM this last March. I believe that John Rustad and his senior staff rigged the party's own election. It was this belief and his unprincipled expulsion of my colleague, Dallas Brody, that compelled me to leave the party. The purpose of this press conference is to share some of this evidence with the public and call upon the Conservative Party of BC to do the right thing and undertake an independent third-party audit of the party's AGM election processes. Shortly after the party's AGM on March 1st, a senior member of John Rustad's executive team made the following confessions to me. This individual stated that over 100 South Asian men were sent by bus and ferry by the party for the specific purpose of voting for John's slate of directors and a new constitution. I was advised that the Conservative Party of BC paid approximately $100,000 to get these individuals to and from the AGM and on other measures to rig this election. The assertions include that John Rustad and all other senior staff were aware and complicit of this. Heavy coercion was used by John's senior staff to the point that this individual's career was thought to be at stake without cooperation. Furthermore, the ferry tickets for these over 100 people were paid on a credit card in the staff member's name. So it is this person's belief that John Rustad will attempt to single him out and scapegoat once the truth about the AGM is revealed to the public. What we want by speaking out about this is for the truth to finally be told. These confessions are supplemented by credible evidence and many other witnesses. My fellow independent MLAs and other witnesses here will be sharing some of that information shortly. I'll close by saying I had no choice, ethically, morally, from an integrity perspective, to leave the Conservative Party of BC. With what I know, I could never ask you, my constituents, or any other British Columbian to donate your valuable time and money to a party that appears to have been corrupted. We still don't know the full extent of this corruption, but we hope it will be revealed in time. Several sitting Conservative MLAs are aware of the situation I speak of, and yet it is only the three of us independents that stand here today, along with a couple of wonderful, brave witnesses. I want to speak to those MLAs now with conviction. Will you finally do the right thing and tell the truth? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tara. I'm Jordan Keeley. I'm the MLA for Peace River North. I'm an independent as well. I just want to say good morning to everyone and thank you for coming and listening. I entered politics to be a strong voice for the people of the Peace River North. I have always said I represent my region first and foremost because it always gets neglected provincially. Initially, I thought the Conservative Party of BC and John Rustad would be committed to representing the Conservative platform promised to its supporters. I attended the party's AGM in Nanaimo. Based on what I saw and what I've seen and heard since from constituents and members, I believe that John Rustad and his senior staff rigged the party's election for their AGM.
That is absolutely brutal. And if true, they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. This is a crime, what Rustad and his senior staff did, and they should have to pay for it. And in the meantime, James, I know you're watching right now, and I think it might be on somebody like you to go ahead and form a brand new party. Let's call it the BC Reform Party, and you build it from the interior outward. That's where your strongest support is going to be. Your mandate, your sales pitch, you got to walk this talk, and I know you do, is to say, I am here for you. I will give you guys all of the information and tools you require to live the best lives you possibly can in British Columbia. I am honest, I am transparent, and I am a very hard worker. Now, that's not the best 30-second elevator pitch, obviously not the best slogans, but it's honest, comes straight from the heart, man. BC needs a real Conservative Party, not a bunch of liberals and left-wing red Tories combined, schmumped up together to be the BC Conservative Party, not a bunch of dishonest schmoes either. Like apparently, allegedly, the BC Conservatives are. What a shame. What an absolute abomination. Thank goodness you've got a few more years until the next election. You can get your stuff together. All right, what else here? Oh, right. So there's a lot of talk, again, about Canada becoming a 51st state. We know that's never going to happen. We know it's never going to happen like that, where the entire country goes, just all as one. It's not going to work like that. And Donald Trump, if he's serious about this, and he may just be, should start talking about individual provinces. I know he's met Danielle Smith before. I wonder why he's not talking about taking Alberta and moving forward from that. Saskatchewan, maybe. And not using the word take, maybe negotiate some kind of a deal that Alberta could be a U.S. protectorate. He must know that there is some kind of independence movement percolating in Alberta. As a matter of fact, a recent poll says 47% of Albertans surveyed would vote for independence. 47%. Whoa, quite a jump from 25% a month ago. Quite a jump from 37% just a couple of weeks ago. So Donald Trump has offered to put Canada under the Golden Dome, this new missile defense system that he's got cooking, under the condition that Canada becomes the 51st state. Carney's straightforward response was Canada is an independent sovereign nation and it will remain one. Now, yesterday, Carney said something really stupid in the House of Commons. Now, granted, this was his first or second day sitting as prime minister in the House of Commons, question period, whatnot. So he starts using his very large brain to go back in history, go back in time to the 2nd or 3rd century and say, well, the Americans, they're the Romans and we are the Greeks. We are Athens. Watch this boob.
Has rules. It has traditions. And it's on those traditions that our Athenian democracy is founded. Yes, we are Athens. They are Rome.
Right. Again, he's talking about they, U.S., being Rome and us being Athens. So let me just pop this up on the screen here. I thought that was kind of funny. I know a little bit about history, and I knew enough to have a look and say, well, exactly what happened between the Greeks and the Romans way back in the day. In the 2nd century, hang on, let's go back even further. Following Alexander the Great's death, the Hellenistic period began, during which Athens emerged as a major center for arts and sciences, maintaining its cultural prominence for several centuries. In the 2nd century, BC, Athens came under the influence of Rome. By 146 BC, it was formally incorporated into the Roman Empire. So what is he saying? Is he saying that, yeah, we're Athens and we will be absorbed by the Romans or the United States of America? Duh! And guess what? No left-wing corporate media called him out on this. All right. Here's a snapshot of what happened during question period in the House of Commons today between Andrew Scheer and Mark Carney.
Oral questions. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome the Prime Minister to his first official question period. This is where democracy lives, and this is where we provide rigorous scrutiny on every word he says and every dollar he spends on behalf of Canadians. Now, let's talk about those words and dollars. During the election campaign, it was elbows up as he put retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. Then secretly, he dropped those tariffs to effectively zero. But he didn't stop there. He told Canadians that the government would collect $20 billion in revenue from those tariffs and use it to cost his platform. Now that those tariffs are going to bring in $0, 2 quick questions. Why wasn't he honest with Canadians during the election? And how is he going to make up the shortfall? Is he going to borrow it, print it, or tax it?
The right honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, may I first thank my constituents from Nepean for giving me the honour of being here. And could you also indulge me to say how great it is to see you in the Speaker's chair, and I trust that you're operating under the period of grace that will not be accorded to me. Appropriately, as the Leader of the Opposition just said. Mr. Speaker, our tariffs have maximum impact on the United States, minimum impact on Canada, and we are dedicating all the revenues from those tariffs to supporting the workers and businesses affected by the unjustified American actions.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Well, he didn't take long to pick up old Liberal habits of not being able to answer questions. But since the election, Canadians have been inundated with grand rhetoric and pretty speeches from this Liberal Party, but they are still suffering under all those policies. Household debt up at record levels, number of people who can't pay their mortgages increasing, food bank use continuing to rise. Now TD Bank is forecasting a recession with hundreds of thousands of lost jobs. The PM said undoing the damage of the last 10 years would require great speed, but he's not going to table a budget for 6 months. If he's the man with the plan and the guy you hire in a crisis, why won't he table a budget before he goes on summer vacation?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I understand the member of the opposition is very busy. Didn't have a chance to study closely the 100-day plan of the former member from Ottawa, Carleton, which did not include a budget.
What? He's talking about Pierre Poilievre there, by the way. And yeah, it did.
Our plan includes legislating for one Canadian economy and nation-building projects immediately to grow this economy, and we expect the support from all in this House.
Do you?
The honourable leader of the opposition.
They must be really afraid to come clean with Canadians if they're going to punt it off into the fall. But, Mr. Speaker, with the throne speech yesterday, Liberals have effectively admitted that it was their policies that caused the suffering for Canadians. Their reckless borrowing and massive deficits caused the inflation. The carbon tax drove up prices and drove away investment. And their anti-development bills chased jobs out of Canada. Now, the Prime Minister is claiming that somehow the Liberals have changed. Well, he has a chance to prove it to Canadians. If he's serious, will he tell Canadians that pipelines are part of his values by repealing Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines bill?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Canada's new government is acting immediately to grow this economy. I just made my maiden speech in this House. Canada's new government, Mr. Speaker, is acting immediately to grow this economy, one Canadian economy out of 13.
New. Look, there's McKinnon sitting to Carney's left. There's Anita Anand sitting right behind him. There's Anthony Housefather sitting just behind him. There's, who is that with the red tie back there? It looks like, I can't recall his name. These are all the same Liberals. It's not a new government.
Nation-building projects, one project office, working with the provinces to cooperate. We expect the support from the members opposite. Hear, hear.
We expect the support from the members opposite. Really? Don't you have to earn that support? I'm getting back to Donald Trump's proposal, his indecent proposal.
Offer you $1 million for one night with your wife.
I had to. I'm sorry. What do you guys think? Now, we know Canada is not going to be just tossed away as one entity to the Americans. It could go in pieces. What are your thoughts? Would you consider? We've got a lot of American news coming up later on in the show. Would you consider becoming an American over being a Canadian? Totally understanding how you feel here, right? Because we all feel that way here. We feel very patriotic about Canada. It's our homeland. This is where we grew up. This is where we live, most of us. Would you consider giving up your Canadian citizenship and becoming a U.S. citizen? I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say about that. Please write it down in the comments, and don't be scared or embarrassed. Nobody is going to persecute you for your answer, regardless of what it is. Carney met with Harper yesterday on the day of the throne speech. All of the ex-prime ministers were there except for one who wasn't there. Kim Campbell was there, I think. No, Chrétien wasn't there. He had a minor, 91-year-old, he had a minor heart procedure. So Chrétien couldn't make it yesterday. So the current PM served as the Bank of Canada governor when Harper was in power. Yeah, we know all of that. So during a visit to Ottawa to watch the king deliver the speech from the throne, Stephen Harper met privately with Mark Carney, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Of course, spoke on the condition of anonymity because they haven't got permission to speak. Prime Minister's office declined to comment on the meeting. So day 3 of the Parliament, and he's not being transparent with us. What do you guys talk about? Come on, just give us anything here. Weather? Sports? We know that Harper's a big hockey fan. Talk about the Oilers? No. We declined to comment. Spokesperson Audrey Shampoo? Really? Saying they had nothing further to say. So CBC News, left-wing corporate media, publicly funded, reached out to Harper for comment via his consulting firm, Harper and Associates, but did not immediately receive a response, though it's unclear what they discussed. The two men have a long, so now they're going to go, well, Bank of Canada, they've got a long relationship, goes back to 2008. Who cares? That doesn't give us any insight into what they were talking about. Were they talking about pipelines, energy corridor, investments, with Brookfield? What were they talking about? In the meantime, David McGuinty, he's the defense minister, and he says arms makers should prepare for accelerated federal spending. What? Arms makers? What does that mean? We're going to start building weapons for the Canadian military because we gave them all away to Ukraine? David McGuinty says government to launch immediate and decisive action to rebuild Canada's defense capacity. Why is that? Because I told you guys last night they're going to be part of this Rearm Europe strategy, which is going to cost $1 trillion. Involved pretty much every country in the EU and Canada now. So McGuinty pulled out all the stops today in his first major public speech to enlist the country's top arms maker. And by the way, Canada makes a lot of weapons of war. We just sell them to other countries. So he reached out to all these big weapon people in the Liberal government's plans to accelerate military spending. He pledged the newly re-elected Liberal government will take immediate and decisive action to rebuild Canada's defense capacity. McGuinty was speaking at the annual CanSec Defense Trade Show in Ottawa to hundreds of Canadian and international contractors, many of whom are looking to sell weapons and munitions to the federal government. The speech comes against the backdrop of Trump's talk of annexing Canada. And one day after the government's throne speech, which promised the country would sign on to this it's $1.25 trillion now. I guess I was off a little bit. $1.25 trillion European defense industrial initiative known as Rearm Europe. Speaking on Power and Politics on the CBC yesterday, Carney said he hoped to have the deal done by Canada Day. I wonder if they're going to call it Canada Day this year. I wonder. Last year, didn't they try to call it something else in the year before and the year before that because we were supposed to be ashamed of our country at that stage of the game? And all of these big cities across the country were canceling their fireworks display, claiming it was too expensive. But we knew that wasn't the real reason. Don't forget to like and share, guys. Get this out to as many people as you can. So this post was put up by Kirk Lubimanoff. You may follow him on X, and he says, here are the Mark Carney Liberals' plans for mass immigration into Canada, and it should alarm everyone. Temporary residents will be an extra 1.733 million people in 3 years, and will start growing again in 2027. Permanent residents, an extra 1.14 million, with growth in French speakers, mostly from Sub-Sahara, into small communities outside of Quebec. Refugees will grow by 168,000 people because while we have record homeless Canadians, we need to spend billions more housing foreigners. They're planning to replace over 2% of the Canadian population with foreigners every year. How long till Canada is no longer Canada? So here are the projections. Overall arrivals in 2025, 673,650. Then it goes down to 516,600 next year, and the year after goes back up, 543,600. But that's the overall arrival. So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit more here and see exactly. Oh my goodness. Those are only ranges. So this could be significantly higher. And I'm not sure. I think I may have said this to you last night, but go to any supermarket or mall in any large city in any province, and what are you going to see? You, my friend, are the visible minority. Jamil Javani is the Conservative MP for, I think it's Oshawa. Is it Oshawa? He's right around the Oshawa area. Anyway, he wants to end the temporary foreign workers program. So he's got this petition going on here. He says the temporary foreign worker program is a large contributor to Canada's immigration system getting out of control with unsustainable immigration levels. The TFWP is taking jobs away from Canadians and holding down the wages of Canadian workers. From January to October of last year, over 160,000 new work permits were issued under the TFWP. I think all those folks are working at 7-Elevens and Tim Hortons now. Canadian or driving cab. And I'm not even saying that to be funny. That's what I've seen. Canadian economists have observed the availability of temporary foreign workers provides an opportunity for businesses to hire foreign workers for lower wages and unfavorable working conditions. Iron Workers Union Local 97 has called on the federal government to immediately end the TFWP and instead invest in Canadian workers and protect Canadian jobs. Youth unemployment in Canada, ages 15 to 24, rose from about 9% in 2022 to over 14% last year. And if you go on Reddit or pretty much anywhere on social media and you look in the right place, you're going to find young people, TikTok probably, young people saying, I can't find a job. I'm not the right skin color and I don't speak the right language, which these days seems to be Punjabi. The highest level in more than a decade, excluding the COVID-19 era. In Toronto, the number of unemployed youth jumped 50% in 2 years, surpassing 120,000. The TFWP has led to a sharp rise in foreign workers in youth-dominated sectors like food service, retail. In Ontario, Tim Hortons hired at least 714 temporary foreign workers in 2023, up from just 58 in 2019. This surge has increased competition for entry-level jobs, making it harder for young Canadians to find work. For the sake of Canada's agriculture industry, the fraction of TFWs classified as seasonal agricultural workers should be treated as a separate program, not lumped in with the broader TFWP that leads to the suppression of Canadian wages. So he's got this petition going on his page, jamilgiovanni.ca. I'll post it in the links for you guys later on if you want to go sign it. From left-wing corporate CTV, Canada Post has now put forward their final offers to the union. Just as news that Canada Post lost $1.3 billion last year. So these union workers think, wow, Canada Post, they lost $1.3 billion, but they've still got money for me. You should be happy that you've got a job. Never mind a job that's very, very high paying with great benefits. You should be happy that you've got a job because this organization, this government institution could be folding if they keep losing that kind of money. Canada Post said it notched nearly $1.3 billion in operating losses last year as the beleaguered institution laid out its final offers to the union, representing 55,000 workers after 55,000. Just think about that. That's more people than live in Brandon, Manitoba. That's insane. 55,000 workers after negotiations resumed today. The Crown Corporation has now posted 7 consecutive annual losses amounting to $3.8 billion before tax since 2018, they said. Included in its latest proposal are an end to compulsory overtime, signing bonuses of over $1,000 for urban employees. Signing bonus? What? Yeah, just for working for Canada Post, you get $1,000 just for being hired. Have you ever heard of such crazy? $500 for rural and suburban workers, cost of living payments that are now triggered at a lower inflation threshold. Management's earlier offer of a nearly 14% cumulative wage hike over 4 years remains unchanged, as does a plan to hire part-time staff for weekend delivery, a major sticking point in the talks. Canada Post also aims to launch dynamic routing at 10 processing facilities initially, which could see mail carriers' routes change daily in response to parcel volume. Listen, man, if these people don't decide to go back to work, and at this stage of the game, can you afford to go out on strike for however long? Because they've got no money. You think you're going to get blood from a turnip? Good luck with that. This is why unions suck. At one time, they used to be a great thing. They helped people get a fair wage. But these days, all they are just greedy goblins who get too involved in politics. And in many cases, don't even help the people that pay their dues. Just look at the COVID situation. Look at the postal workers who were fired for not taking that shot. And the union did nothing. Cup W protests with Antifa on government legislature steps. I've seen it firsthand. I saw it during the Manitoba Freedom Convoy in 2022. It was disgusting. Waterloo Catholic District School Board lifts unconstitutional ban on the recording of public meetings. Here's Hakeem Keir of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms with more on that.
With some good news to report. Back in January, the Waterloo Catholic School Board made a decision prohibiting the public from recording their board meetings. This was a decision of the Director of Education, not the Board of Trustees. So in February, we wrote to the board warning them that this move was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court has held that the right to freedom of expression includes the right to make audio and video recordings. Not only that, we warned the board that recording actually enhances the democratic accountability of the board, and that if they didn't change the rule, they could face legal liability. A trustee, Conrad Stanley, brought a motion to overrule the Director of Education's decision. Well, on Monday, that motion passed. Trustee Stanley explicitly relied on our letter in arguing with his trustees about why this was necessary. And so now the public in the Waterloo region is again free to record board meetings. This was a quick turnaround. In only 3 months, we've seen a meaningful change. And so we're pleased to see that the democratic function of the Waterloo Catholic School Board has been enhanced. And it's all made possible thanks to our donors.
Yeah, so JCCF is going to have to pretty much threaten every single school board in the country, every single municipal council in the country, because they're all doing it. Just ask Lisa Robinson, one of the councillors in Pickering, who's been censured I don't know how many times and had her pay taken away, suspended, because she dares to speak up against the left-wing narrative. It's disgusting, really. And what about these land acknowledgments that you hear all over the place? This is not necessarily a Canadian initiative. It's all part of UNDRIP, which Canada signed on to in 2018. And then the provinces not too long afterwards. It's a guy named John Rustad who wrote a piece called Land Acknowledgements. Either give the land back or stop saying it's stolen. That makes so much sense, right? Oh, we'd like to acknowledge that we're on Treaty 8, unceded territory. Well, what are we doing on unceded territory? They didn't give it away. So how did we wind up here in the first place? Well, actually, they did. Let's go ahead and read this commentary. In response to Donald Trump's various insults, threats, and tariffs, we've apparently never been prouder to be Canadian. That's kind of funny, don't you think? Why? I flew a God Save the King flag on the Victoria Day long weekend. Nobody threw a rock. Unless you count the Governor General presenting the Award of Merit to various police persons on behalf of the King, recently throwing, we're gathered today on the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation through the stained glass. It doesn't make sense. Congratulations to you, brave, noble social workers with sidearms enforcing settler colonialism. Brings a tear to your eye, doesn't it? Just not in a good way, because it's untrue, malicious, and hypocritical. Also pervasive in the public sector as the revolt of the elites continues. Hence, some meddlesome government body sits on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe peoples. And we want to thank the Indigenous people for their continued care and protection of all our relations on this shared land. It's nonsense, from the fiction of pre-contact Eden to their exercising ongoing stewardship of our private property to the all of our relations nonsense about presumably Brother Beaver, Sister Sumac, and Mother-in-law Mosquito, and the Haudenosaunee, aka Iroquois Confederacy, hated and feared by their neighbors at the time of European contact, sharing with the Anishinaabe they repeatedly attacked and displaced. Oh, you didn't know that? If you think truth matters, and if not, God save us, British rule put an end to chronic low-scale warfare, complete with torture, enslavement, and cannibalism, and bestowed peace, order, and good government. It was highly imperfect, including bigoted denial of the right to vote, but to portray Sir John A. Macdonald as genocidal and the Mohawks as pacifists cannot lead us anywhere but into darkness. The effort is malicious. Humans are flawed in infuriating ways, and no institutions can entirely erase original sin. But the appropriate response is a difficult combination of humility and resolve, accepting that the most infuriatingly flawed person we ever have to deal with is ourself. Political, social, intellectual radicalism does the opposite, crusading against motes in others' eyes from a false position of cosmic purity, and practitioners of identity politics, exaggerating the failings of all other groups while denying their own, offer a singularly menacing collectivist version of this dangerous error. As G.K. Chesterton wrote, all feeble spirits naturally live in the future because it's featureless. It's a soft job. It requires real courage to face the past, full of facts which can't be gotten over, of men certainly wiser than we, and of things done which we could not do. But people who preen about unceded land aren't just claiming if they'd been there in 1867 or 1667 for that matter. They dramatically have outperformed the clods who did stumble onto the historical stage. They're pretending they did so brilliantly that Aboriginals still own the land we're sitting on, sneering at them. Which brings us to the issue of hypocrisy. Every time we sit with clenched teeth through one of these land acknowledgments, and by the way, we've discovered that we're far from alone. We want to leap up and shout, if you think your buildings belong to someone else, what's your plan for immediately giving it back? If you went to some Aboriginal and said, hey, buddy, here's your stolen bicycle, he or she would certainly and rightly anticipate you're handing it over at once. To pedal smugly off, leaving them on foot instead, would evoke outrage. But how else can one describe the monotonous, sanctimonious insistence that Ottawa, Victoria, and indeed all of Canada belong to them, but can't have it? Nya, nya, nya. If you really think it's theirs, you have a binding obligation to return it. And in ye bad old days, a key function of police officers was to locate, seize, and restore stolen property. Nowadays, the GG droned. As police officers or as leaders and supporters of those in uniform, you must fulfill many roles, from social worker to first responder, and from conflict mediator to expert communicator. But never mind, daddy is a cop, son. He arrests bad men. Today, once you strap on the badge, pistol, pepper spray, truncheon, handcuffs, and scary vest, you support your communities through the toughest times, whether it's helping accident victims, assisting families in crisis, comforting those affected by violence, or addressing issues related to drug use and mental health, which arguably includes providing counseling and support to Aboriginals dismayed that we're openly saying it's their land, then not giving it back because our society is diverse and constantly evolving, especially when it comes to conceptions of truth and honor. It won't do. If we want to be a country we can and should be proud of, then either give the land back or shut the F up. I threw in that last part. Excellent point. Will Alberta separate? What's Danielle Smith doing anyway? She's going on American news talk shows again, talking about how America needs oil. And that oil is going to come from Alberta. Watch this.
An aspiration of energy dominance hinges on being able to have a partner who can backfill if there is any supply disruption. So the Americans right now consume about 19 million barrels of oil a day and produces 13 million barrels. And so you need to get the balance from somewhere. We happen to have a particular brand of heavy oil that isn't available in the U.S. The only other partners you'd have to look at are places like Iran and Venezuela, or you'd have to retool your refineries. And so I think because we have this unique integrated relationship, the fact that we're able to sell about $100 billion worth of oil products at a discount to the US. The Americans are able to upgrade it to a value of $300 billion, and then also be able to export their West Texas Intermediate internationally to meet strategic goals. That just seems to be like a mutually beneficial partnership. And so the more the Americans want to export, the more they'd be looking at Canada to be able to backfill to keep prices low and stable for consumers. And so that, I think, is something that the presidency is beginning to understand very well. Certainly the Interior Secretary, Doug Burgum, and the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, understand that very well. And so we're looking to see if we can normalize our partnership so that we can get into talking about what those new pipelines might look like. Not only would we be able to have, I think, a bitumen heavy oil pipeline that would link our heavy oil to the heavy oil refining capacity in the U.S. Gulf Coast, but also the opportunity for us to continue to provide additional supply of gas so that it can feed some of the European markets. We think that there's an equal partnership there.
Very, very, very interesting. Now, some of you are saying Danielle Smith is weak, and maybe she is, maybe she's not, maybe she's crazy like a fox. Who knows? But she is making it easier for a citizen-based referendum on separation. Matter of fact, that bill is passed. Now the threshold for getting signatures in order for the government to be forced to call a referendum is significantly lower. Why would she do that, I wonder? Is it just to carry a big stick, walk softly and carry a big stick with Carney in Ottawa? To get him to drop the no more pipelines bill and the no more tankers laws? Don't know. I think she's smart and very well spoken. We may not necessarily agree with everything she says or does, but I think that she is a very smart person and quite possibly the right person in the right job at the right time. Here's something very, very interesting. The other day, Congress in the United States, at least the House of Representatives, this has to move to the Senate yet, but they voted by the narrowest of margins to defund Planned Parenthood. Watch this.
On this vote, the yeas are 215, the nays are 214, with one answering present. The bill is passed.
Wow. That's kind of a big deal, don't you think? Let me throw this up on the screen here real fast. First, let me find it, and then I'll throw it up on the screen here. Yes. Yeah, here it is here. All right. So this comes from Planned Parenthood Action.org. House Republicans vote to defund Planned Parenthood, putting 200 health centers at risk of closure. Very, very interesting. How are they going to perform their abortions now? But not even that. Not even that. These people have been a big, big, big force in behind this whole transgender nonsense that's been going on for the past few years. And by the way, in Canada, I was talking about this last night, if you'll recall. In Canada, Planned Parenthood exists by a different name. It's called Action Canada. Action Canada is Planned Parenthood Canada. We're a voice for sexual health and rights in Canada and globally. Action Canada. So if you want to know who the driving force has been in getting all of these pornographic books put into public schools in almost every province in the country, and Alberta is going to get rid of them very soon. We told you that last night. Action Canada is where you need to look. The question is, who is the Action Canada representative in the bureaucracy, in the government? And are they split into municipal branches or do they operate out of the province? Because we know education is a provincial jurisdiction, not federal. And so that's what several people I am close to have been trying to find out, and they're very, very, very close to calling them out. And now that Alberta is making a move on this, the rest of the provinces, at least the ones who think logically, should be able to do the same thing. Did you know that, and this may come as a shock to you. I don't even know how to tell you this, that Joe Biden may not have had his full mental capacity while president of the United States. Is it possible? Just put everything aside for a second. Is it possible that somebody else or several other people were acting on his behalf and using the auto pen that the president signed order after order after order with? And if so, could that be considered treason? That's what they're calling it in the United States. Watch.
House Republicans are escalating their pursuit of answers about then-President Biden's health and an alleged cover-up by those close to him. Subpoenas are being prepared, and they could include the former president's family. Here's senior national correspondent Aisha Hasni.
Tonight, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee are readying subpoenas in case former President Biden's White House physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, and 4 key staffers don't agree to a request for congressional interviews by the Thursday deadline. The committee is investigating the Biden administration's use of the auto pen to sign pardons and executive orders, some still being challenged in court. Chairman James Comer tells Fox the committee could even call in former First Lady Jill Biden, the president's son Hunter, and former White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
If the trail leads us to the next step, which many believe would be perhaps Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, then we will go there.
And while several Biden insiders have stayed quiet amid cover-up allegations, they could too potentially be forced to talk under oath.
Holy crap.
Unbelievable, and now it's caught the attention of the Oversight Committee in Congress, and now Representative James Comer is demanding an investigation. And I'll tell you, I'm just going to tell you right now, if this actually goes through, there's going to be some heads that really roll. I mean, think about all those pardons. Those pardons will be null and void. Think about all the decisions that Biden made, a few too many, that maybe he didn't make, that would then be null and void. We'll get into the legal complications of all this. But first, here is Representative Comer speaking last night.
Say that, no, they just talked to Joe Biden and he was tip top. He was in great physical condition. He was at the top of his game. Now they're coming back covering the track saying, yeah, it looks like he was in mental decline. Well, we all know he's in mental decline. What we need to know is who was calling the shots at the White House. And one thing that was also mentioned on your show thus far is that when you sign a document that has legal implications, it has to be signed personally. It can't be signed by an auto pen. You use auto pen for proclamations and mass letters and things like that. So I think that if we can understand more about the auto pen and whether or not Joe Biden authorized it, I think this could lead to a lot of those executive orders being kicked out in court.
Not just a lot of those executive orders being kicked out in court, but people actually charged with treason. Whoa. And how many lefties or normies out there will just not believe this? And they'll just look at Trump as vindictive. Probably millions of them. Like, how long? At what point? What is it going to take to get these people to go, oh my God, I can't even believe that they fooled me for this long? Let me ask you a question. When you first woke up, did you feel stupid? Like, what was it like for you? Did you feel refreshed? Did you feel awakened? Did you feel alive suddenly? Or did you feel like a fool? Because I had a combination of all of those feelings when I first woke up 6 years ago. Man, I can't, and I still feel it these days too. When something happens that I didn't think of, oh, it's like, wow, man, how could I have missed that? It was right in front of my face. So all of these people right now hearing all of this news, even though the left-wing corporate media is just refusing to cover it, it's starting to leak out. And all of it is becoming, in fact, mainstream. We are the new mainstream now. And they are starting to pick this stuff up. Are they believing it? Or are they going, no, look at that source. I don't believe anything unless it's MSNBC, CNN, CBC, or CTV. Ever heard of Conservative Mom? She's a big Instagrammer, and here's what she had to say.
Hillary had a 98% chance of winning the 2016 election. You were told that COVID came from bats. You were told that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. You were told that during Joe Biden's presidency, he was cognitively fine. You were told that Trump colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election. You were told that Trump built cages at our southern border and was keeping children in them. You were told that Trump called white supremacists very fine people. You were told that Joe Biden had no knowledge of Hunter Biden's business dealings. You were told that January 6, 2021 was an insurrection. You were told that Trump called our fallen soldiers suckers and losers. You were told that videos of Joe Biden shaking hands with the air and talking about recent conversations that he had had with deceased world leaders and forgetting his own cabinet members' names were just cheap fakes. You were told that an El Salvadorian national who was an alleged gang member, wife beater, and human trafficker was just a good old dad from Maryland. You were told that Trump and Putin are very good friends. You were told that plexiglass, a mask, and standing 6 feet away from someone would prevent the spread of COVID. You were told that healthy children and pregnant mothers should get the COVID vaccine. I'm just wondering, at what point are you going to start to question what you're being told by our media?
Now, I know you guys have already jumped that shark and you're here with me tonight, and that's awesome. But what's it going to take to get your friends and family to come over with you? I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again, so please pay close attention to this. This is not something that you can do at the dinner table when there's like 5 or 6 of you around. This is not something that you can do when there's alcohol or any sort of substance in play. But if you're one-on-one with somebody, that's different. Because it's almost like, you know, you say to a group of people, well, I was abducted by aliens and took some devices up the wazoo. You know, one person in that group of however many you're speaking to, maybe 5 or 6, one person's always going to go, usually it's the biggest mouth of the bunch. And because that person starts laughing, everybody else feels comfortable and they start laughing too. They don't want to hear it. But one-on-one, well, that's a whole different story. And I know you might be sitting there thinking, well, one-on-one, it's going to take forever. Yeah. But think about this. If you had been doing the one-on-one approach for the past 4 or 5 years, how many people would you have been converting? Waking up. Because that's what we need. And I'm not saying that you haven't done that, because I know that many of you have reached out and tried and been knocking your head against the wall, failed. Get up and try again. Some people you have to let go. They're never, ever going to change their minds. They're never, ever going to listen to any other side of the story but the one they absolutely firmly believe for whatever reason. I don't know what that is. Some sort of conviction, some sort of self-admittance that if they were wrong, then their world falls apart and their complete and total self-image falls apart too. I don't know. There's people out there who still believe that Antifa, you know, the organization I'm talking about, is anti-fascist just because they call themselves that. What does Antifa mean? Anti-fascist? Oh, well, then they must be anti-fascist then. And these are people who don't even know what fascist is. These people are not anti-fascist. They are fascist. They should simply be called FA. Not the B. This is an extension of the Babylon Bee. This is their news arm. Yeah, they actually do cover news in an unjoking way. Is that even a word, unjoking? Anyway, They report terrifying videos as Antifa attacks Christian families worshiping at Seattle City Hall. FBI now investigating. Yesterday, local Christians met at Seattle City Hall to protest Mayor Bruce Harrell, labeling them bigots. This is what it looked like. We'll play the video for you here. Well, you guys can't hear this? Okay, I'll take it off and re-put it up again because you need to hear that. That's basically a bunch of Christian families just dancing and singing along to Christian music. That's what that is. Looks like my church on Sundays. It's crazy. All right. Oh, I see. So now the sound automatically turns off whenever I do this. Ooh, this is a new wrinkle. Okay, let's try this again and see if it works. How about now? Okay, so no masks, just a bunch of families praising Jesus, praising God, celebrating Christianity. Not the B says, yeah, it looks like a bunch of extreme right-wing people, huh? It's quite literally the label that Mayor Harrell's office applied to a Christian worship event held at a downtown park over Memorial Day weekend when violent Antifa thugs showed up to brawl with police in an attempt to get at the Christians. Harrell, the mayor there, blamed the Christians. On Monday, after Harrell had been been called out for blaming the victims, he doubled down and suggested that his critics are racist. Of course he did. In response, local believers decided to peacefully assemble to address their grievances with the mayor. They didn't throw Molotov cocktails and fight police. Instead, they gathered on the steps of City Hall to pray and to worship. And here's some of that. Resurrection power, rising my too. I believe there's another miracle here in this world. And this is the sound of triumph rattling. This is the praise making dead man walk again. Open the grave, I'm coming out. I'm gonna live again. 'Cause this is the sound of triumph. Okay, you get the idea. This is just their message. Jesus Christ loves their city and commands his followers to speak the truth. As mentioned above, however, Antifa showed up to this event as well, forcing the city to deploy a large number of police to protect the crowd of singing Christians. And here is some of that.
Get off of him! Get off of him! Get off of him! Fuck! Don't fucking touch him! Get off of him! Help him! Help him! He's hurt! Please help him! Take your friends off of him, man! Get off of him!
Antifa. At one point, left-wing activists harassed local reporters Jonathan Cho and Katie Davis-Court, forcing them to flee to police for safety. Many other people trying to enter or leave the worship service were unable to get through the Antifa mob and had to be escorted to safety by police. Some of the left-wing activists got violent, even going as far as to lunge at a mom carrying her baby.
So they're clearly rescuing this family with kids who is trying to get in or out of the event.
Why don't they just all get, like, I'm sure that Donald Trump will try to do something about this, but in these blue states, he doesn't really have the power to do that. What is the description of this particular video? Antifa militants, trans activists, they all team up, have surrounded a mother and her baby trying to leave the Seattle pro-Christian rally. Right there. That's insane. These people all need to, because you know what? I'll tell you this. It's the same people all the time. These professional thugs is what they are. And they're still well-funded, apparently, by some organization. We don't know exactly what it is. A lot of dark money flying around still in the United States, even with U.S. aid exposed for what it really is. George Soros is still finding a way to get them funded somehow. But man, I mean, they are violent, and they should be held to account, and they should be thrown into prison and held in jail without bail until their trial date, because they're destructive. All right, couple of things before we wrap up tonight. Tomorrow night on the show, Maggie Hope Braun is back. She's got some good news regarding what happened recently in Lethbridge, and you might want to follow her at gather2030.substack.com. That's her Kickley Substack, and there's over 6,000 followers on there who are very interested in hearing what Maggie has to say, and even actively participating in Kickley initiatives all across the country. Maggie has been all across Canada these past couple of years, teaching people how to expose the ICLEI/UN climate initiatives and activists in their home cities, councils, and towns councils as well. And she's had a lot of really good success in getting these climate plans ousted from the Partners for Climate Protection. Many of these councils don't even realize they're members of this. And one of the reasons that they're leaving these initiatives that they signed on to whenever, like 20 years ago, 25 years in some cases, is because they're just too expensive. They can't afford it. So Maggie is doing a fantastic job, and she joins the show tonight. I will be leaving for Universal Ostrich Farm in Edgewood, British Columbia on Friday morning at 8 o'clock Central Time. My first stop is going to be in Winkler. I'm going to stay on the main highway, Winkler, Manitoba, and I'm going to be stopping at this German restaurant, which is right on the main highway. I'm going to be stopping in the parking lot there. And the reason that I'm stopping in all of these different places is if you have something you would like me to deliver to Katie and that whole crew down there at Universal Ostrich Farm, this will be the way that you can get it there. Please don't make it so big, because I'm not taking a truck. I'm not renting a U-Haul. I'm just going in my car. And I can throw things in the trunk and I can put things in the back seat. But I'm willing to take whatever you want to send to Universal Ostrich Farm out to Edgewood with me. So Winkler, Manitoba will be my first stop. That's going to be 10 o'clock on Friday morning. And then Brandon after that around noonish. I'm going to be not going into the city of Brandon. I'm going to be staying on the highway, probably stopping at the McDonald's or the Tim Hortons or whatever. That's just off the highway, or the Esso there, the Esso gas bar. It's got a restaurant on it with a knife and fork. Eats, I think it's called. From there, I'm going to be stopping in Regina. I don't know exactly where yet. Then it's going to be Swift Current. And I'll give you guys updates along the way as well through Facebook and X. Little live updates of my progress in case I get delayed or something and you are coming out to meet me. And you know, I can imagine as well that people might be coming to one of these stops, bringing things from other people as well in their communities. So that would be cool as well. Plus, it's going to be awesome to finally get a chance to meet you. Anyway, so Regina, and that's going to happen probably around 3 o'clock Central Time. So 2 o'clock Mountain Time on Friday, maybe a little bit later. And then we're going to do Swift Current. We're going to stop in Swift Current for a little bit. These stops aren't going to be long, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, depending on how many people come out. Then it's Medicine Hat, and then we'll move to Calgary for the night. We're going to stop in Calgary, and then the next morning we continue on through British Columbia, stopping in Golden, Revelstoke, and then finally making it to Universal Ostrich Farm, probably sometime in the late afternoon. So I'll put that map up on the Facebook page for you guys a little bit later on tonight, so you can see where to be when. And don't forget to follow this page for updates on where I am, in case you do have something that you want to send out to the Universal Ostrich Farm. I'll take it with me. Paul says, me from Minnedosa. Yeah, on the way back, I'm going to be coming a different route. So I'm going to go through South BC, and then I'm going to go again through Calgary, and then north. I'm going to stop at Whistle Stop in Mirror, Alberta. I want to meet Chris finally. Then we'll head up to Lloydminster, through Saskatoon, through Yorkton, probably through Roblin and Dauphin, back down through Neepawa and Manitoba, and then finally back into Winnipeg. So all this is going to happen starting on Friday morning. I'm going to be out there for about a week. And yes, people have been asking, what about the show? I will be doing updates along the way. So there's not going to be the typical show that you're used to, but I am going to be stopping along the way, talking to people, and that will have to substitute for the show. I'm sorry, you guys, but that's really all I'm going to be able to do. But I will be doing reports for the couple of days that I'm at the Ostrich Farm, and I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing those folks and all of you as well. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I love you all. I appreciate you all, and I'll catch you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Central with our guest, Maggie Hope Braun. That is tomorrow night. And for those of you, Nighthawks, all access Nighthawks at shadowdavis.com. I'll see you over there at the website in just a couple of minutes for the extension. And tonight it's Satanic Pedophile Network. Sounds scary. We'll be right there. Bye for now.